It is Friday, May 29th of 2020. Woofa. And I am here to talk about parking cars and getting paid for it. Today on Guy's Daily Drive. And hello and good afternoon. I hope you are having the best of days, best of Fridays. And wow, the weekend's here, so it means we're gonna go out and party. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means we're still gonna stay in and not do a damn thing. God, I want to get out of the house so bad. Anyway, back when I could get out of the house, many years ago, I lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And Fort Lauderdale, this is, and if you're not familiar with the geography of Florida, Fort Lauderdale is roughly 40 to 50 miles north of Miami. And there's a lot of tourist trade throughout the whole South Florida region, and Fort Lauderdale is no exception to that. So there was lots of hotels. And back in the day, one of the things I used to do while going to school, as I was talking about this morning, was park cars. In fact, I was talking about how I had a job in the ice plant one summer. Well, I was doing that during the day, and then I was parking cars at night. So I was in like incredible shape because I was lifting during the day 40 pounds at a time. And then at night I was running, just sprinting really, because you're basically just doing sprints. You're sprinting from wherever the station is, where all the keys are kept, down to the parking lot to get somebody's car, or you're sprinting from where you've parked their car back up to the key station. That's how it goes. And I worked at a bunch of different places. The place that I probably worked at the most is a hotel. It's still there. Last time I was in Fort Lauderdale, which was late February, I think, when I was down there for a surprise birthday dinner for the man that was in charge of the high school marching band and orchestra. Again, back in the day, it was his 90th birthday, Mr. J. But the Pier 66 at the time was owned by the Phillips Petroleum Company. And you probably have never heard of the Phillips Petroleum Company, but they had a series of gas stations called, what was it? Phillips 66? It had a 66 in the name. And, it was like an Exxon stations or BP stations or Hess or whatever your local gas station conglomerates are. That's what Phillips Petroleum had. And they had this hotel. And the hotel kind of had two different parts. There was the main hotel part that was up on about a 15 to 20 foot high ramp, which was always fun, especially when it was raining. And then across the parking lot, there was kind of a smaller venue where you would have business meetings and wedding receptions and things along those lines. And, the cool thing about working there was, you always knew how much you were going to have coming to you at the end of the evening, because they didn't charge. There was no charge for parking. So any money that was coming into the concession, and it was a concession, the hotel didn't run it. It was a private company that was running the ramps, or sorry, the parking concession. And we were making, and this isn't going to sound like much, but back in the late 70s, it was more than enough. We were making like $3.50 an hour. But, you know, we didn't get to keep any of our tips. When we would pull a car up, they would, hopefully, people that we pulled the car up for would give us some money. And then we would put it in the bin. And at the end of the evening, we most likely would be paid from that bin. And whatever was left would go to the company that ran the concession. So that was like the main ramp, and we would have people that were staying at the hotel would have their cars parked there. People that were coming to the restaurant, or what was the big draw at the time, the revolving lounge that was at, I don't even know if it still runs. It was at the top of the building, and it gave you like a 360-degree panoramic view of both of the major marinas. There was Bahia Mar, and then Pier 66 had their own marina with all these big, huge boats. Some people lived on them. Most of them were just rich people with more money than they really needed to have, so they would buy big boats. That's how that worked. So, hold on a second. Let's see, what's everybody doing here? Okay, good. So you would come in and you would work, depending on what was going on. I used to work quite a few hours. I would be there from 5 o'clock until about 2 in the morning sometimes. And I would be paid at the end of the evening in cash. So I guess it doesn't really matter now, but there wouldn't be any taxes taken out. So the $3.50 an hour, you figure another $1.50 that you weren't having to pay in taxes. So it was more like closer to the equivalent of $5 an hour in 1977, 78 bucks. So not bad. And it gave me the opportunity to drive like a lot of different cars. Like the very first day that I was working there, the very first car I went to park was this, oh my God, this huge Cadillac Coupe de Ville, two-door Cadillac, and it was a relatively recent one. Just, the car was almost as wide as it was long. And there were 3 lanes on the ramp, and on one side was a Rolls Royce, and on the other side was like some other exotic car, and I'm in this Cadillac that just goes on forever, and I'm trying to squeeze between these two other very expensive cars, and I could feel that I just barely tapped the bumper onto something, and I got out of the car and I was like, oh my God, ah! And my boss comes over and he's like, what are you doing? Get this car off the ramp. I said, I think I hit that car. And he looks at, there's no damage, get out of here. Get in the car, get it out of here. So that's what I did. I got the car out of there. Oh. And so, I mean, these things were, this was just like every night. Every night you would be parking all different kinds of cars. And, you know, some guys had various little schemes going on that were skirted legality, and sometimes didn't even skirt legality. It was just plain illegal. But had nothing to do with me, so I didn't I didn't push the issue. As long as no one was trying to get me involved in whatever it was they were doing, I was kind of a live and let live kind of guy. And I was there for quite some time. And one of the weirdest things that ever happened to me, and it led to me having a phobia about flying insects. And when I finish telling this story, you'll probably understand why. I was working the other side, the small, it was for a wedding reception. So it's a smaller building, and the cool thing about working like business meetings, wedding receptions, sometimes even like product send-ups, whatever it was that they were renting the building out for, everybody would pretty much come at one time. Everybody would get there at the same time within 30 to 45 minutes, and then everybody would pretty much leave at the same time. So by the time you got everybody parked, you would just be sitting on keys for like 4 hours and have nothing to do. Which, I mean, you're still getting paid, so cool. But it was pretty boring. So I would, after everybody was parked, I would go and I'd get my car, my 74 Duster, the Dustfeld, and I would pull it up on one side of the ramp and put the windows down and just play some music and chill until it was obvious that whatever was going on was starting to break up. And then I'd go put my car away and take care of business. Well, I was working this wedding, and I had my car up on the ramp, and I'm kind of leaning on the trunk in the back window, just kind of laying down. It was a beautiful day. And I looked out over the marina, and there was this dark cloud that was coming off of the water right toward the ramp. And I was kind of like, what the hell is that? I had no idea what it was, but I knew that whatever it was, I didn't want to be in the path of whatever it was. So I got up off the back of the car and jumped into it, and I was rolling up the windows, and these were, no power windows. These were manual. So just as I got the second window rolled up, whatever the cloud was hit, and as it turned out, it was a swarm of thousands and thousands of palmetto bugs. Now, if you don't know what a palmetto bug is, having never been or spent a significant time in Florida, it's essentially a great big huge giant flying roach, and there were thousands of them landing on the car, and I'm inside the car just freaking out. And this man and this woman came out of the reception, and the bugs were starting to clear, but they hadn't really cleared yet. And they're looking at me like, well, we want to get our car. And I was not going to get out of my car until all those bugs were gone. And they're giving me this stink eye, kind of like, well, come on, we want our car. And then the woman, not the man, but the woman, saw the bugs. And she freaked out. Grabbed the guy by the back of his collar and dragged him back inside. And I didn't see them for like another 45 minutes. But ever since then, I have not been a big fan of bugs. Now, as far as where else I parked, I worked the graveyard shift at the Hilton Hotel, which was on the Gulf Ocean Mile. I worked there midnight to 8 a.m., so I would have all the drunks coming out of, I can't remember what the name of their lounge was, at 2 a.m. and then all of the people checking out early in the morning. So I got some, and there I worked mostly 4 tips, but there would be like from 2 o'clock to about 6 o'clock, where absolutely, it was dead. There, nothing going on. And so myself and the bellman that was working the graveyard shift would basically just sit around. I'd pull up the most comfortable car that there was, and we would just, shoot the breeze, play cards, do whatever we had to do to pass the time, out of sight of anybody else that was working, so that they wouldn't realize we were just, not at our posts, not paying attention to whatever was going on. I worked at the Mai Kai for a short period of time, which is a Polynesian restaurant. Kind of a cool place. It's been there since like the 50s. I also worked at a place called Yesterday's, which had the farthest away ramps of any place I ever worked. These people would pull up, and these ramps were so far away. People would pull up and they'd get out of their car, and whoever it was that was getting the car would get in it, take it around the corner, and there was almost always like 1 or 2 parkers that were there waiting, because we would basically drive them to wherever it was that they had to go to get the cars that they were sent to get. And the fastest I ever went in a parked car was when I was working at Yesterday's. It was like a 280Z. And I bet I got that sucker up to about 70 miles an hour in this back alley. So many things could have gone wrong. But fortunately for me, did not. But that's, it was a great job to have. It was a lot of fun. And I met some really, really nice people. And there were other things that happened too that I'm almost home, so I'm not going to talk about them right now. But thanks for listening and watching, and or however it is that you are consuming this content. I appreciate it. Go on over to YouTube, look me up, Guy Searle, or even look it up by the playlist Vert Shark or Guy's Daily Drive or the Mac to the Future Go livecast, and like, share, subscribe. See it again? Like, share, subscribe. You can contact me, guy@mymac.com. Vert Shark or Mac Parrot is the Twitters. You can help support me going to Patreon, patreon.com/MacParrot, coffee.com, ko-fi/MacParrot. Also, what's the other? PayPal, paypal.me/MacParrot. And that is going to about wrap it up for today. Check out the other podcasts that I do. MyMac.com podcast with Gaz. Mac to the Future livecast with David and Warren. And yeah, that's all the info. That's all I got. Like, share, subscribe. That's all I got. We shall see you all next time right here on Guy's Daily Drive. Thanks.